How's it going, guys? Reformed Stoic here. Back with another video. Something a little bit different today. Blink-182's new album that just dropped. I've listened to it all the way through today. I don't know if I listened to the songs in order. I'm pretty sure I didn't, and I didn't re-listen to the singles, but every new track that wasn't previously released. I'd already heard the Dance With Me, One More Time, More Than You Know, whatever that love song was. That love song that dropped earlier, that was the one song on the album I didn't like. But, you know, I've only heard it once. I'm just going to go off from the heart here, guys. Obviously, I've been going through a lot lately, and I don't really remember the names of the new tracks, so some of the ones that stood out, like, we'll just say tracks that I do remember, like Turpentine. That track was a great combination of, like, it was catchy and deep, but Tom wasn't afraid to kind of just, like, throw it out the window, and, like, the lyrics were, like, serious, but then they were goofy, and the singing was emotional, and then he was being goofy. I really liked that direction for that song, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, the analysis is like sometimes life gets really, really serious, and then sometimes life is really, really goofy, and sometimes it's just kind of all mixed up together, man, and it reminds me kind of like me and my channel sometimes a lot, and it really reminds me of my old lucid hip-hop as well. You can look up a review that somebody wrote about a track that I did called, I don't know if I can remember what the track was called, but somebody talked about how I, like, threw it all out the window. Like, I was saying something very serious and, like, trying to sound genius, and then all of a sudden I say something ridiculous. So Turpentine definitely stood out to me. There was one song that I don't remember the title, but it really gave me, like, a Cure vibe. It just kind of had, like, a disco beat for the chorus, one of the new ones, not the single. I had just developed my deep admiration for the Cure. Maybe that was like 6-8 months ago, something like that. And Tom had made it clear that he's a big Cure fan. He did that song with Robert Smith on the 2003 self-titled. No disrespect to the Neighborhoods album. When Blink-182 got back together for a minute in, like, what was that, 2011, they put out Neighborhoods. You know, I like that song Dogs Eating Dogs. That was an alright effort, but this is the greatest thing they have put out since the self-titled album. And I just did a little Google search, album comebacks. Apparently, like, Bruce Springsteen had a good comeback. Metallica, Death Magnetic. I actually haven't listened to that. Really, it was like maybe 4 years ago I started getting into Metallica. Finally, I was kind of a late bloomer there. Everybody gets into Metallica, like, when they're young. I kind of didn't. I listened to Saint Anger when I was young, but anyway, this isn't about Metallica. John Lennon had some sort of a comeback. AC/DC had a comeback. Brave New World from Iron Maiden. But you know what, guys? Like, from these comebacks that I looked at, I wasn't especially familiar with them. I am tempted to say that this is the greatest comeback album ever. And maybe that's just for me. I don't know how many guys were 90s kids. I was born in 1991, and I heard of Blink-182 from Now 3. There was these Now compilations. It went all the way up to who even knows how much. I remember starting with Now 3. That had Friday night, da 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 da, get the feeling right. We started making out, just to top my pants, and then I turned on the TV. That's about the time she walked away from me. Nobody likes you when you're 23. That's the first Blink-182 song I ever heard. And then Now 4, da na 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 na, na. All the small things, totally overplayed. Eventually it got to a point where it's like, dude, I love Blink-182. I love all the small things. It's like, oh, come on, bro. You don't really love Blink-182. But that's how it got started. I remember hanging out with my friend in like second grade in my room. We had this like giant bag of Warheads, sour candy, sour hard candy, and we were just eating these hard candies and listening to All the Small Things on repeat on my Now 4 CD. And then when I started hanging out with my neighbor in like 5th grade, 6th grade, the first albums that I had ever gotten, like 5th grade, my this neighbor chick, she got me Hybrid Theory from Linkin Park, and my other neighbor showed me Linkin Park. Wesley showed me Linkin Park. A friend got me All Killer No Filler from Sum 41. That was in pretty close proximity, maybe even that same birthday. So for like my 5th grade birthday, it was either 4th or 5th grade, I got Hybrid Theory from Linkin Park and All Killer No Filler from Sum 41. I became a huge Sum 41 fan. I was also into Linkin Park, but I was really into Sum 41. And then I kind of got into these battles with my friends at the time. They were really into blink-182, and I also liked blink-182, but Sum 41 was kind of like my special thing, and I'd talk about why I thought Sum 41 was better. But over time, especially because of like Travis Barker, and you know, no disrespect to Sum 41, but just looking back and looking at the music catalog, Blink-182 is the better band. They got the dual vocals, they got Travis Barker on drums, and I just think there's like a more varied kind of style in their music. So when I'm hanging out with these friends, I'm like, oh, what's this Blink-182 song? And they're like, oh, this is Boxcar Racer. And that's the first time I had ever even heard about a side project. I'm like, but that's Tom from Blink-182. It's like, yeah, it's his side project, and Mark was filling in on bass for Newfound Glory on tour, so Tom just went ahead and made some music. And then ultimately I can start getting into the knowledge I have of how the band drama kind of developed in, and it was simultaneously like Tom had kind of seen what it was like for him to go in his own direction through Boxcar Racer. Boxcar Racer brought a little bit of tension within the band because they did it without Mark, and it was really, really, really good. Now, old school Mark is just right there with Tom, man. You know, I think Tom was probably always my favorite, but it's because I was like an emotional emo kid. I ended up getting into emo in like middle school. I had this military friend in middle school, and he was like, dude, Sum 41, Blink-182, that's like, that shit's lame, bro. And he just had like a never-ending stack of burnt CDs, and he showed me Senses Fail, Finch. I'd already heard of Rufio, but Rufio I almost feel like was kind of like a bridge between those things. Ultimately, Rufio was pop punk, but I was introduced to Rufio with like Newfound Glory, Finch. I'd find Taking Back Sunday, My Chemical Romance before they were blowing up, The Used. That list goes on and on and on and on. So I eventually kind of segued into that music. And when the self-titled came out in 2003, people were really like being hard on me because it's like, oh, dude, Blink-182 sucks, but they liked The Used. And you look back and it's like, you know, Blink-182 fits right in with those bands at this point. But I'm gonna try to speed through this really quick. I just wanted to have like this little rant about Blink-182. So I'm trying to remember when I got into the pre-Travis Barker albums, and I could throw together a quick little ranking list of all the old Blink-182 albums, starting with Cheshire Cat, because you know Buddha was basically like an earlier release of Cheshire Cat with a couple of different songs, and there's Fly Swatter, but really just starting with Cheshire Cat, that was their first major label release. For those who don't know, if you're a Blink-182 noob, they had Cheshire Cat and Dude Ranch before Travis Barker joined the band. They had their old drummer Scott Raynor. I was getting into that 8th grade freshman year. I was definitely getting into that 8th grade, and that music holds a really special place in my heart. If I'm trying to rank the albums, this is just like a really not especially well thought out, but I was a huge Blink-182 fan, so I'm pretty confident that I'd say there's a tie between Cheshire Cat and the self-titled album from my favorite Blink-182. And you know, Travis Barker Blink-182 is very different than Scott Raynor. When you're listening to interviews, you know, they talk about how the band deepened and expanded when Travis Barker joined, and I definitely think that's true on some level. But pre-Travis Barker, Blink-182, Cheshire Cat, Dude Ranch, I think I like Cheshire Cat a little bit better than Dude Ranch, but Dude Ranch is also great. It's like skate punk. It's like pure skate punk. I like that song, sometimes it seems like all I hope for just gets thrown on the floor, and it seems like you don't love me anymore. Sometimes I wish I could just run away. Sometimes I wish I had something to say. Da-da-da-da-da. And it's interesting because Mark was actually arguably more of the lead singer, and I think over time it became evident that Tom was a little bit more considered the lead singer. Going off of this new album, they definitely had some Mark tracks and they had some Tom tracks, and there was some great Mark tracks, and I definitely think Mark had his moments and Mark shined. But at the end of the day, you just look at the scenario. Blink-182 had continued on without Tom, and you know, they had plus 44 before they redid Blink-182 with Sikba from... Like 2 out of 3 times I would have remembered the band that Sikba was from. I was actually never especially into that. The Alkaline Trio. I knew about them. I know the drummer played CNC custom drums. Great drums. Orange County Drums and Percussion was Travis Barker's original sponsorship. All kinds of great drummers. I've ranted about that so many times. One of the albums on my top 30 list on my channel, Army of Anyone. Ray Luzier's playing drums on that. He's playing Orange County Drums and Percussion. That was 2005, I believe. Just great drum sound. Man, the drum sound on Boxcar Racer, some of the best drum sound ever. And then, you know, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, very close. Enema of the State, very close. Self-titled, very close. But yeah, between Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, Enema of the State, and self-titled, the self-titled, just 2003... That was like puberty, guys. That was like 8th grade, freshman year of high school, finishing up middle school. I had my first girlfriend, and more or less my only girlfriend in 8th grade. Went through a lot of things in that time. I remember the winter of 8th grade. That's when I had that girlfriend. I was listening to a lot of like Amber Pacific's 5-song EP. I was listening to a lot of Nirvana. I was listening to a lot of Cheshire Cat and Dude Ranch. I really beat that Cheshire Cat and Dude Ranch to death, man. I just know all those songs by heart. And I definitely beat Enema of the State and Take Off Your Pants and Jacket to death. But I have noticed that as time goes on, it's fun. I'd probably put Enema of the State above Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. But... I mean, I definitely had my time with those albums. That would be like 6th grade, 7th grade. But the most spins would go to the self-titled album. I had a family vacation where I got Yellow Card's album that had Way, way, way from here I'll be what it means to be your Lord and not believe. I had that album and the self-titled from Blink-182, and I just went back and forth between those. Yellow Card, you know... I'm not especially crazy about their songwriting, but the violin sounds great. We used to laugh about how Yellow Card had a violin. I'm surprised there wasn't other pop-punk emo bands that tried having a violin player, because I honestly think it works great. Yellow Card sounds great, man. You know, sometimes maybe I wish like there was a band that was a little bit more like Blink-182 or like, I don't know, Since It's Failed, Taking Back Sunday, and they had a violin player. I think it worked great with a lot of different bands, but... trying to start building this up. The whole point of this little rant here is that I loved Blink-182, man. They were just such a big part of 5th grade, 6th grade, middle school for me. The personal albums was Cheshire Cat, Dude Ranch, and self-titled. And then Enema of the State and Take Off Your Pants and Jacket was really social albums, hanging out with my friends. Boxcar Racer was a really personal album for me. I mean, Boxcar Racer might take it. You know, I might put Boxcar Racer above the self-titled. But, and then, you know, so there was, like, why did Blink-182 break up? Tom got a little taste of following his own personal direction. I always kind of made this joke. The last song on the self-titled, I'm lost without you. You afraid of being alone, 'cause I am. I kind of made this joke that Tom, like, became obsessed with the way his voice sounded on that song, and that's how he started Angels and Airwaves. And now, my love for The Cure has developed, and I feel like, you know, he did that song with The Cure, which is a great song, the song he did with Robert Plant. For all of this I know now, nothing I know changes me at all again. Use me, holy, come on and use me. Just really great song. Between Tom getting to work with Robert Plant, doing Boxcar Racer in the past, they'd been touring for years and years and years and years. They'd been doing it. A little bit of resentment growing between Mark and Tom. And, you know, Tom wanted to do his own thing with Angels and Airwaves. And me, personally, I never really liked Angels and Airwaves. I bought the first album. I faintly remember that song, The Adventure. I remember, like, the drum beat more than the song. It was like, but I can't even really remember anything else about the song. I've never really been an Angels and Airwaves fan. I think that was highly inspired by The Cure. It's like Tom DeLonge Cure worship. I've tried to say at times that some Blink-182 songs almost sound like sped up The Cure, especially like with Tom, but that's definitely a stretch. That's definitely out there. But if you're looking at it in this very avant-garde way, you can maybe see that every now and then. I hear The Cure influence. They had a great list of influences. Like in the video I'm just watching now, I haven't finished their latest interview, but Tom said he was really into the Descendants. Both him and Mark were really into the Descendants. I've heard people say before that Tom was really into Jawbox. Jawbox is like a more obscure 90s post-hardcore kind of a band. Says he loves The Cure. So they have really cool influences. I mean, over time, so it's time to graduate to the next part. Like I said, the albums that were personal for me, Boxcar Racer, self-titled, and then pre-Travis Barker. So I graduated to more like emo music, I guess. The early 2000s emo. I got more into like Census Fail. Man, I really wore out Census Fail's. The EP is great. I still listen to the EP now, but their first full release, Let It Enfold You. I just wore that out 8th grade, freshman year. I pointed out before that the lyrics on that album are pretty questionable. But, you know, that was pretty much it for Blink-182. Every now and then, I'd spin my favorite albums from them. Always been a fan of the pre-Travis Barker stuff. And then, obviously, Travis Barker's amazing, and his drumming brings so much to the band. But, you know, when they got back together for Neighborhoods, kind of cool. Wasn't anything like this, man. So, this is how I close off the rant, because I haven't even really talked about the new album that much. That's just making it clear how important Blink-182 was to me. And clearly, like, drumming was my life, and I went to music school, and I would eventually get into, like, death metal and technical death metal and rap and other music. And, you know, and I'd follow, like, the stuff that Travis Barker was doing, and he really just kind of became, like, a culture icon. But here we are, 2023. I got a lot of crazy drama happening in my life. I've had a lot of crazy drama happening in my life for these last 3 years. There's crazy things happening in the world, man. It looks like we might be going to World War III, and horrible things are happening in the Middle East, and look what this country's become. And it's just like, when you hear about Blink-182 getting back together, I thought it was going to be good. Like, when I first heard these new singles, I wasn't crazy about One More Time, but then I heard More Than You Know, and it's so cool that Travis Barker's playing double bass. I can confirm it now. He's playing like a slow power metal beat. He's doing double bass. Travis Barker's doing double bass. That's just so unbelievably cool. And he's doing the quad fills. And, you know, he's not playing like crazy fast double bass, but Travis Barker has just become such an artist. He's the one who produced the album. He was their producer. Travis just kept getting better. He just kept getting better. I'd say Blink-182 is a very rhythmic band, and is a combination of Travis Barker's amazing drumming and Tom's kind of underwhelming chord usage. And man, I'm trying to put my finger on some of these influences. You can tell that Blink-182 has been listening to all these bands over the years. A lot of bands that were probably inspired by Blink-182 a little bit, or even more like melodic hardcore stuff. Guys that probably weren't even really that much into Blink-182. And man, I'm really trying to put my finger on some of these influences that I felt I heard. Definitely some sort of like melodic hardcore. And I can't put my finger on it. It's like frying my brain trying to think of these bands. I loved how I heard like in the Anthem Part 3, it sounded in the beginning like the Anthem Part 2. Like they had that little just shout out to the Anthem Part 2. You heard the synth from the beginning of all the small things. I heard that in a song. One of them kind of sounded like the beginning of da 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 Adam's song. A little shout out to that. And Travis is playing like, because in Adam's song's like and in this one that sounded a little bit like Adam's song. He was doing like a rim beat. They just had these really clever shout outs to their old song, and it wasn't like, oh, you're using the same chord progression as this old song, this is like a rehash. It's like, no, it's like shouting out their old song in this special way. Rhythmically, Travis has just evolved so much, and he's so hip. Like, he's like, because some people, you'd think it's like, oh, dude, you're doing double bass now? You never did double bass. But it's just so mature, and like, yeah, you never did double bass. It's 2023. Travis Barker's playing double bass. And it's perfect. And it's not like, death metal, but I just thought that was so cool when I heard that. I almost couldn't even believe it. It's like, no, it sounds like he's playing double bass, but no way. And I just think that's so cool. And they had the funny songs. They had like the fast songs, like it's Christmas Eve and only after 2 fucking Christmas Eve. They had some songs that shouted out that. Like I said, I can't really remember the lyrics. I can't remember the song names. I've heard all these songs once, but it's the greatest comeback album for any band ever. I'll have to listen to Death Magnetic for Metallica, but for me, for what Blink-182 meant to me, and I'm sitting here trying to like move on with my life and trying to stay positive while some shit's going down. Things have been looking bleak in the world for a long time. This album from Blink-182 is like, I'm just thinking, I want to like listen to this. I want to like rock this in my car. I want to listen to this like a few times. I want to go back to the days where I listened to an album over and over and over, because before it was all like MP3s and iTunes and YouTube. You'd have $20 or $15 and you'd go to Best Buy and go buy an album. It was huge when I go to Anchorage, because I live in Kodiak, and we had Walmart here where you could buy CDs, but when I got to go to the mall, when I got to go to the Best Buy in Anchorage, it was like, oh, and I actually bought albums back then, and you just listen to them over and over and over and over again, especially before, because it started to become like the LimeWire age and MP3s and downloading music when I started to get into emo, and I just tried to like really expand. And it's funny how indie kids, it's like the bench press for indie kids. Like, how many gigs is your music collection? It's like, I got like 40 gigs. I'd say that mine was like 19, and then like the older kid who was like 4 years older, it's like, mine's like 40. It's like, dang. How many gigs is your music collection? The iPod. I can just tell that this music means a lot to me, man. And Blink-182 is one of those bands that a lot of people grew out of. You started with Blink-182 and then you graduated on to other music. But then over the years, you're just like, man, I kind of find myself listening to Blink-182 every now and then. It's a guilty pleasure. I'm a little bit embarrassed. And now in 2023, it's like, you know what? Fuck it, dude. I love Blink-182. Really, all their old music is great, but this album has matured. They have matured to what's like, they got the goofy stuff. They got the serious stuff. Mark has got some of his tracks. Tom has got some of his tracks. They're doing kind of the synthesis. I heard an effect on one song where I think they had a phaser where like the panning shifts, and on one side was Mark singing, on the other side was Tom, and it was during a hook. It was during a chorus. So they were like going back and forth like every 2 beats or every 4, or like every bar or something, or every 2 bars, something like that. Just great stuff, man. You know, personally, production-wise, I loved the way drums sounded. I loved the way Maple custom drums sounded in emo bands and punk bands in the early 2000s. I think Travis Barker's drumming tone on Boxcar Racer is like among the best drum tone I've ever heard. So for me, it's got the modern production. Travis plays DW now, because really the Orange County American custom drums have been done for a long time. They made some deal with Guitar Center and shipped their stuff overseas, but hey man, if anybody wanted to hear me rant about blink-182 in the past for like almost half an hour, that's what this was, man. This is just a break from all the drama, from all the chaos in the world. Yeah, Tom DeLonge's a Freemason, and apparently Mark has some like military family, and they made a bunch of weird jokes in the past about like whacking off and Satan and stuff, and what does that mean? Was there a plot within their music? Well, you know what, man? There's a plot within a lot of people's music, and for now, with this new album coming out, I'm kind of just taking, in this moment, in this video, I'm just taking a break from all the drama and all the intellectualism and all the chaos and all the war and all the allegations, and it's not just some mediocre, like, trying to reinflate the magic and failing. Like, they're actually friends again. Travis Barker was in a plane crash where people died. He talks about it on the Joe Rogan podcast. He said he was waking up in the hospital. He just started swinging on nurses and doctors. Mark had cancer, and they wrote about it, how these tragedies and traumas brought the band back together, and they're friends again. And then you start to think, it's like, oh man, like the Not As Good Blink-182 with Sigba, Angels and Airwaves, it kind of just like, it just needed to happen the way it did, because here they are again. And it's like, it's the best comeback ever, man. Maybe I'll change my mind later. Maybe I'll start digging around and listening to some other comeback albums. But for me, it's the one time a band has come back and it's like, man, that's Blink-182. Like, that is just... They've changed. Their songwriting has changed a little bit. I hear some sort of melodic hardcore influence, and I should be able to name a band or two that I think they've drawn from, and I just can't think of it. Maybe I'll like leave a comment or edit the description later when I do. But thank you, Blink-182. It's been a long time. I feel like more or less I haven't seen you guys since 2003. Welcome back, my old friends. It's been good catching up with you. And that's what I got for you guys right now. Take it or leave it. God bless.